Have you ever felt called to do something bigger than yourself? Today we're exploring the stories of people who took on that calling, even when it meant stepping outside of their comfort zone. From the prophets of old to modern-day messengers, we're uncovering the courage it takes to share the truth with the world. We're back, and we have an incredible episode lined up. Today, we're diving into the courageous calling of the prophets. Men and women who stuck to their beliefs, shared messages that were really tough, but made a difference. Courage looks different for everyone. So what does courage mean to you? And what does courage mean to you? I would like to ask that question.
Well, we're all familiar with the Nike slogan, right? Just do it. Is that all it is? Is there more to it than that?
No, I think it sums it up. Like courage is, I think it goes hand in hand with faith. You know, like you don't really know what the end result will be. Have faith and have courage and just go with it.
My mind goes back to my childhood when I first learned to ride a bike. You know, you need to have courage, because you don't know, and of course I fell along the way because it was outside of my comfort zone. But once you learn how to ride a bike, it becomes the best experience ever as a child, right? So when we talk about courage, you have to take that step outside of your comfort zone to the unknown of possible falls maybe. But at the end, when you are pursuing something worth pursuing, when you take the courage, it will be worth it, right?
And to you at home, what would be when did you have courage? We wanted you to share with us in the comments right now. You can write us and we want to hear. So please be a part of the conversation. Felipe, I know you're about to say something.
Yeah, can I say something like on those lines, Puya? I think when we go back in days before GPS, right? If you're driving around in a place where you're very comfortable, you're familiar, you know where you're going. But let's now go to another state where you have no idea where you're going. Like you had to rely on maps. You didn't even know how accurate they are. Any roadblocks that you have like along the way. The courage would be like, well, let's follow this path and let's go, considering that everything will be good. And then from there, I know we have so many stories from road trips, of unexpected things on the way, of how you got into some encounters, obstacles, and you find a way around it. But you had the courage to still do it anyway.
Right.
Instead of staying in the comfort zone.
I see Hannah smiling.
I know.
I've never driven without
I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to put Hannah out there. But Hannah's like, I've never experienced that before. I've always had a GPS. I wanted to ask though, is it, so are we just talking about having courage, right? Or is it the courage to fail?
That's a much deeper question, Jitesh, yes.
Because courage, right? I feel like you're gonna fail. I feel like that's a part of having courage.
It's a reality.
Right? You mentioned it when you fell off the bike, right?
But you learn from your failures.
Absolutely.
Right? Failure is not the end.
Absolutely.
But when you have the courage to continue the journey, you learn from your mistakes and you become better and better at that thing that you're pursuing.
Puya, I know you have something always from the Bible to help encourage us and move us forward. So I'm sure there's something in there about courage.
Right. I like the way you began today's episode, Jitesh. You talked about the prophets of old who had to be courageous to share the message that were oftentimes difficult to share because they had to point out where people were erring and point them to the right direction. And that's not always a comfortable, position to be in. But we're going to look at the Bible. Dear friend, thank you for joining us once again today. We'll go to the Bible, and especially I want to share with you the perspective of Paul as he reached out in the city, people who were not always ready to hear the gospel. So stay with us as we look at the Bible now. When we turn to the book of Acts in chapter 17, we find the story of Paul traveling through town to town as he was sharing the message of Jesus. Now, in verse 16, we find that Paul is now in the city of Athens. Athens was one of the biggest cities in the times of Paul. I myself have visited Athens, modern day Athens, and it is amazing. There's so much history in that place. And I wonder what Paul must have felt like when he was in that city. According to the accounts here in the book of Acts, we find Paul observing that the city of Athens was full of idols and shrines to various gods. Not only that, Athens has been known to be the center of philosophy, culture, and religion. And the Athenians prided themselves on their knowledge and intellectual debates. So this was a challenging environment for someone like Paul, who was a Jewish man, preaching a new faith, especially one proclaiming about someone who was crucified, someone who was condemned as a criminal by the Roman Empire. The name was Jesus. But Paul, instead of being silent, instead of retreating to more familiar territory and staying inside his comfort zone, Paul stepped out of his comfort zone and he went to the Areopagus. That was known as the prominent place where philosophers and scholars of their day gathered to discuss new ideas. Paul was not afraid. He spoke to the Athenians in a way that would resonate with them. It's very interesting that as we look at verse 23 and 24 onward, as Paul was reasoning with the Athenians, he used a strategy of relating with their previous knowledge first. He acknowledged that the Athenians were very religious, so he praised them. He built bridge first. He built a bridge connecting with them. He didn't go and condemn them and tell them that, oh, your gods are wrong right away. Paul instead said, you guys are so religious. I see so many idols, so many temples, and I even see that you guys have built this altar for an unknown God. Wow, maybe the Athenians wanted to make sure they cover all their bases. They wanted to make sure that they worship all the gods. So they even had an altar for the unknown God. So Paul, taking that as a pathway to bridge to the God, the Creator God, the one true God who came into the world, the story of Jesus, he related to them, telling them, I am here to tell you about this unknown God that you don't know. Paul's approach was thoughtful and respectful, quoting their own poets and speaking to their cultural context. He preached about repentance, the resurrection of Jesus, and the God who desires to have a personal friendship and relationship with humanity. Even though some people in Athens scoffed at his message, there were people who were intrigued by Paul's message and they wanted to hear more. A few people, including members of the Areopagus and many women, believed the story of Jesus. You see, friends, this story, this example that Paul set for us highlights the importance of stepping into cities, maybe like New York City, San Francisco, Tokyo, Sydney, right? Regardless of where we find ourselves in, regardless of which country you may be watching from today, dear friend. Maybe God is calling you to step into your city, maybe to your capital city where secularism has ruled. Maybe we need modern day Pauls who needs to go into the cities and relate to people and talk to them about the gospel of Jesus in a way that they would understand. How do I do that? Where do I begin? I don't know resources. I don't know what resources I can use or where I can point people to. We have a great resource here for you. Please visit us at hope.study. We have many Bible study resources that you yourself can study and that you could share with your friends. There you will learn many amazing lessons from the Bible that would be practical for you. So once again, I invite you to visit us at hope.study and take the next step today. Back to you, Jitesh.
Thank you, Puya. And today we'll see that same spirit in new ways, from ancient times to Manhattan streets. Stay with us. Coming up, we're diving deeper into how courage and creativity come together to reach people where they are. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Today we're exploring a story of courage and mission. Pastor Wayne Jamal is transforming the simple act of going to the movies into an experience of hope and connection. Can you tell us more about this story and how it's reaching people right where we are?
Absolutely, Jitesh. You know, today we're going to Hope Studios. Led by Kevin Christensen, we recently launched The Hopeful, a movie now showing in over 900 theaters across the U.S. We're seeing something unique here. While only 5% of Americans attend church weekly, there's a huge opportunity to reach people where they already go for inspiration and stories, the movie theaters. And even with the rise of streaming, about 20% of adults in the U.S. still visit the theaters at least once a month. It's clear that people are seeking powerful, shared experiences, especially through film. So today, let's see how Pastor Wayne Jamal uses The Hopeful to connect with people beyond the traditional church walls and bring them a message of hope.
Here in Manhattan, people are trained to ignore you. It's tough out there. You get some people and you have some level of success, but it's a hard road. Now, when I went to the movie theater, when I went there after The Hopeful and I had the flyers for the church, it was a totally different experience. Hi, I'm Wayne Jamal, part of the Greater New York Conference. I'm a pastor here in the heart of Manhattan, Associate Communication Director. But what I'm most excited about right now is that I just became a cinema evangelist. I learned about the Hopeful film when I received an email from the director, and I didn't know what the Hopeful was. I didn't hear about it, I wasn't sure what it was, and so I asked questions. I replied back and I did my own research, and when I saw the trailer, I was blown away. I got excited. I think about what Jesus did. Jesus told stories, and I'm sure his stories were entertaining. Jesus, I'm sure, was a master storyteller, but his stories had a positive message. God used things, visuals, to get across a message. Typically, people don't know who the Seventh-day Adventist Church is. But now, if we have films out there sharing who we are, more people are exposed to us. We're able to be there and start up conversations with people. We can invite a friend or family member who we couldn't invite to church, but we can invite them to the movies and they'll go. My experience doing an evangelistic movie at AMC theaters, that was a game changer. People showed up on their own, people that weren't even Christian, and they saw that film. What a totally different experience. And this is thanks to a new resource. I was so excited about this film. I grabbed the flyers from the church. I headed over there, around Times Square where the AMC theater is. I was welcoming the people. I came in, I said hi to the folks that were sitting in there. At the end of the film, I had announced to the theater and to the people coming out, I said to them, we're from the local Seventh-day Adventist Church, and we're willing to give information as well as answer any questions. One person in particular was really excited about that and took us up on that offer. And so me and my wife took that young man out to eat. We sat down and we talked about the film. We talked about life. He talked about how he's an aspiring actor. And before I can even really promote my church, he asked me to figure out where exactly is my church. And guess what? He showed up. He stayed for the entire service and stayed even longer. He stayed there for over an hour after the service was done, talking to the people, spending time with us. This opportunity would not have presented itself if it wasn't for the fact that we were able to use cinema evangelism to reach people.
Yes, it's not the first time the end of the world has been prophesied by a fool, nor will it be the last, if you do not renounce these radical ideas. You will not be welcome here in this house of worship.
If you're on the fence about cinema evangelism, then what I would like you to do is to just give it a chance. Maybe you want to donate to it and help to fund it, because films cost a lot of money. And so we need people to support it. We can put together our funds, we can put together a project that can really get across our message. Imagine films about the Great Controversy. Imagine films putting together things that are like fictional parables, but had a positive message that could share our beliefs. We don't have to replace other forms of evangelism, but there's a new tool in our tool belt. Cinema evangelism is a way to reach the modern person for Jesus Christ. We have the truth. We can share that truth in a new way through cinema evangelism.
That was truly inspiring. The Hopeful isn't just a movie. It's creating opportunities for connection and transformation. Seeing people touched by its message reminds us the power of creative outreach. You know, Jitesh, what's your take on using media in ways like this to reach people where they are?
That's a great question, Felipe. I think storytelling, especially through film, allows us to connect in such a relatable, impactful way. People see themselves in these stories, and it opens up a path to healing and hope that might not have been there otherwise. Don't go anywhere, because coming up next, we're talking to Rico, the producer of Hope Studios.
Today, I'm excited to share news about The Hopeful, a film that's touching hearts around the world. The Hopeful takes us back to 1874, where widower John Andrews, traveling on a steamship with his 2 children, shares a story of courage, hope, and love. A story that begins with the end of the world. Let's watch the trailer and see why this journey is so inspiring.
Obey his word and believe. There is no time for delay.
I believe the Bible is clear. Jesus will return in but 4 short years.
I come before you today to tell you that I have been shown in vision. Father Miller's message was light. The Advent people were traveling on a path toward a bright and holy city.
This is not the first time the end of the world has been prophesied by a fool, nor will it be the last, if you do not renounce these radical ideas. You will not be welcome here in this house of worship.
This was only the beginning of our journey.
Her visions do not come from God. But my friends, she speaks with great tenderness of the word of the Lord.
The Holy Spirit encouraged our Advent hope. There were people who didn't listen and they fell off the path.
I really believe this doctrine which you preach. I was lost, and now I'm found.
We must follow the word of God over the rule of men. We feel love. The love of Jesus, it lifts us up, it carries us forward. And it will guide us home.
Isn't that beautiful? The Hopeful reminds us that hope can shine even in the darkest times. And we're already hearing stories from people who feel its impact. If you get the chance, watch The Hopeful and experience this powerful story for yourself. And stay tuned for more uplifting stories from Hope Channel around the globe.
Welcome back, and we're thrilled to have a special guest with us who's been part of this mission. Joining us is Rico, one of the creative minds behind Hope Studios. Rico's journey in storytelling and his passion for bringing hope to unexpected places aligns perfectly with that we've been discussing. Rico, it's great to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I have some questions for you.
You always do.
Yeah. They could be easy, they could be tough. Let's find out.
All right.
Okay, here we go. Rico, it's great to have you with us. And we've been talking about the importance of reaching people beyond traditional church walls.
Yeah.
Right? The Hopeful has become a powerful tool in this mission. Let's start by talking about its impact here in the U.S.
Well, the impact here has been really significant. We really have broken new ground. As an organization, we've never placed, a film in movie theaters, 900 theaters around the country. And now
900.
900.
Wow.
So it's really about going to where people are, right? People go to the theaters. It's sort of like how Paul went to the marketplace and he addressed people who were there, and it was a diverse group of people. So we don't know who is out there, but we know that we have a message of hope. Right? And if we can get the narrative right, we can get the right story, they'll come. And we are seeing just in terms of the impact here in the U.S., that people are coming.
Wow.
And we have some amazing stories of how people have shown up and what their experience has been like.
We want to know more about those stories, Rico. Let me ask you some more questions before we get to that, right? How are pastors and churches using this film to connect with their communities?
Well, what we're calling it is cinema evangelism. Ooh. Cinema evangelism, yeah.
Is that a Rico quote?
You know what, I wish I could take credit for that one, but I can't take credit for that one. But we're calling it cinema evangelism, where basically we're not trying to entertain people.
Wow.
We're not trying to just have people come, and they do come, like I said, and the theater, the movie theater, is the one place in the world, really, where people will take their phones, put them on silent, mainly because they're told to do that, and put them down and listen to a different worldview for an hour and a half, right? Wow. So with that in mind, we have put together a strategy where we invite people to come, and then pastors, members of the church can say, hey, would you like to go to a dinner and a movie?
Yeah.
First we'll go see this movie. Who says no? And then we're gonna take you out to dinner. So everybody becomes an evangelist. So that's why we're calling it cinema evangelism, where pastors, members of the church can just invite people to come, hear our story, and then continue the conversation.
I really like, Rico, what you said, right? I didn't even think about that. For an hour and a half, I put my phone down, right? Like I do. You don't pay attention to anything else.
What's on
that screen, right? So that's amazing. Rico, now I want to hear the stories, man, because I know you got some. At least share one with us, maybe more, but if you could share just whatever comes to your mind that you think was powerful, we'd love to hear it.
Okay, it's now, right now?
Yeah, please.
Can we do it now?
I can't wait any longer.
On the bus, I've been wanting to tell you this forever. Okay, so here's the deal, man. So we put the movie out back in April, 900 theaters, like I said. We don't know who's gonna show up, we have no idea. Well, right in Virginia, right here south of Washington, D.C., a gentleman of Indian persuasion, Hindu background.
Wow.
He walks into the church, an Adventist church, and he says, I need to speak to a pastor. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't really care. He just walks in because he's driven to come and find out about this movie he has just seen. He speaks to the pastor there in Vienna, Virginia, and he says, I need to know about the light that has come from this woman in that movie, the same light I saw in a book. Now, you know, in the Hindu religion, light is a big deal. And he said, I saw light coming from this woman. I need to know who this woman is, Ellen G. White. That's what he said. And then he sat down with him, and the pastor sat down with this guy.
Yeah.
His name is Dave.
Wow.
Yeah, and Dave had all these questions, Jitesh. One of the questions he asked, a big one, was, why did a man have to die?
Wow.
I don't understand it. I'm from the Hindu religion. Yeah. Why did a man have to die? Wow. I don't understand that. Can you explain this to me? And then it was just one thing after the next, and it was explained, and then he says something further. He starts coming to church.
Wow.
He's been coming ever since then. Someone got baptized, and he said, wow, a baptism. Can I go look at the baptistry?
Wow.
He wanted to go see it. He wanted to go and take a look at it. He goes up, he looks at it. He says, I see light coming from that. He says, I know a lot of different religions, different types of Christianity, but I've never seen the light that is coming from this church and you people. When you sing, I see the light. When you have a baptism, I see the light. So Dave now is a regular, he's not a member yet, he hasn't been baptized,
and that's
but
okay.
he's coming every week.
That's amazing. Rico, that is really, really powerful. I mean, I think we need to not glaze over that story, right?
No.
Because he watched the movie.
Watch the movie.
He had questions, and these are deep, deep questions that he's asking, you know, and very quick to ask them, and then continue with following up. And I mean, that's amazing. He saw something, right? He was moved, you know. The Lord and God worked through him and asked him questions. So I think that's amazing.
And what's so amazing about it, like I was saying before, that you know, people, we take for granted that people know the story.
Right.
And you know, some people have no idea. So he comes in with this big question, this uber of a question, which was, why did a man have to die? Right? And we take it for granted that everybody knows that. And people need to know the core, essential aspect of the gospel, that a man, God-man, Jesus, died to save us.
Wow. Yeah. Rico, I have something on the table here I wanted to...
I recognize those.
Yeah, I think you know these. So if I'll show it up here. So we have the book. I guess this is the hopeful book that we were talking about, right?
That's the story of the hopeful right there.
Right. And we have...
And this is the hopeful edition of Steps to Christ. And if you just open up that open cover, now
what is this on here?
Well, it's designed to mimic the way. So when you open it up, you'll see that our church, with all the courage and the mission, we set sail to go across seas to bring the gospel message. So that's picking up the water, the waves.
Nice.
And on the inside cover, you see the ship.
Yeah.
Actually.
Oh, it's in there.
Yeah,
that's unique.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, here it is. Look at that.
Yeah. So that's what it's picking up. It's picking up the...
And look what we brought for you too, Rico. What is this here?
Wow, look at that. See, we're on the same
look at this.
Page, as they say.
Okay, Rico. What an inspiring journey it's been today. We've seen how stories like the hopeful are reaching people in unexpected places and opening doors to deeper conversations about faith. It's a reminder that sometimes, just like the prophets, we need to take extra steps to bring hope to others. When we share these stories and resources, whether through film, books, or even just a personal connection, we're planting seeds that can grow into something powerful. And with your support, we can continue to reach others with these life-changing messages. Head over to our website to find out how you can join us in this journey. Together, we are transforming the world, one story at a time. Thank you.